Hello everyone, this is Greyshot117, and this week, instead of 151, I have Delta with me today, over here.
Hey.
Yes, and we are going over episodes 4 and 5. Why did we take a week off? Well, because episode 4 broke our hearts, and as well because of the fact that, honestly, trying to watch this on Thursday and have it up for Friday was kind of killing us in terms of trying to get it up. So I wanted to give the guys a break, and I wanted to do it a little bit later when the episode premiered, that we could sit on it, kind of think about it, and I feel like that's better. So I feel like if I do make these reviews out, they'll be on Sundays rather than Fridays. I know that might hit me on views, but I would rather just have it out when we have collected our thoughts than try to rush something out, which is partly what this show seems to be doing in some departments. But Delta, what let's try to cover everything, because I know there's a lot of people that probably want us to talk about the action sequence. We're not going to, not up at first. Let's talk about, I think, the 3 separate arcs that I think, or plot lines that are going on. I feel like the more limited one that we could talk about first is the whole situation with the Covenant and the Blessed One, because that is the least amount of space in terms of plot. Because there's only, but I still think there's some things we can discuss with it real quick.
Yeah.
So first off, I would say this: it is weird that they just show back up on Madrigal just fine. I would assume that there would be some sort of detection or something of a Covenant ship. Like the UNSC immediately detected slip space, but Madrigal doesn't seem to have the ability to.
Yeah, that seemed... So it's hard. It's really hard. It's hard for me to separate Halo lore from the TV show, and I'm trying. But there's so many changes. It's not just a couple changes now at this point. It's hurting my suspension of disbelief to where I really only care about the Master Chief and Silver Team. I really don't care about any of the rest of the plot.
That is fair. There is a lot of changes. That being said, I want to point this out, that not every change needs to be met with hostility or negativity. If a change is in a positive way, it can honestly be good. And like, for example, Charlie Murphy as Mackie, I think, is a good addition, because I feel like that character is an interesting concept to add upon the Covenant in some unique ways.
I mean, I kind of like the idea, but...
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. So, like, the whole point of the Covenant War, and this is the issue that I'm not getting.
Yeah.
So, they haven't really explained why the humanity is at war with the Covenant now.
Yes.
Like, they haven't, because the whole point from, like, Harvest, our First Contact, and Contact Harvest, I mean, wow. Contact Harvest, was that humanity could activate a lot of the Forerunner tech no matter who the person was.
Yeah.
And that kind of, like, endangered the Prophets' hold on power and their religion and how they keep everybody in line. So the Prophets all knowingly started a war with the humans anyways, just to kind of save face.
Yeah, and again, the whole point is the Covenant's wish to destroy humanity, so that way they can proceed, and also it's a way for the Prophets to cover up the fact that humans are at the Reclaimers, the descendants of the Forerunners who will pick up that stuff, where they are not.
Humans were like the literal.
But here, actually, speaking of Madrigal, let's get to everyone's favorite secondary plot line, Madrigal. Do you want to go on this?
I literally couldn't care less. I don't even know how this fits into the story anymore.
Yeah,
it's literally completely irrelevant to the main plot.
So
maybe there'll be some. Maybe they're trying to earn something, but they're trying way too hard to earn something with nothing. I don't know where this is going.
They are hinting at something called mystics, which I'm assuming is a human that is somehow connected with the Forerunners and has some inherent knowledge of it. Which again, I feel like there should be more importance on the fact, like, hey, the Covenant know about the planet. Like, and there was like one line someone said about like the UNSC offering protection. It's like, we're losing the war. How is the UNSC going to protect a colony that they know has insurrectionist ties? Like, even the insurrectionist still technically has like power over it. So essentially, what I'm referring to, by the way, is So you have Soren, who was on the rubble, is with, was it Kawan? Oh god, I'm probably gonna butcher her name. But point is,
Something like that.
yeah, they're both together. They go to this planet. She's trying to get in contact with some former rebel leaders that knew her father. That way they can overwhelm Venture, who is taking control by the UNSC as well, providing power. The problem with this, in my personal opinion, is the fact that the Covenant killed everyone close to her and her father. Not Venture. The Covenant. Now we're in a situation where she's only out for revenge against Venture. Where Venture killed a handful of people, the Covenant killed everyone that she knew and loved. Everyone in that area. So I do not understand why she is so determined to fight Venture. And I don't understand why she is not even thinking about the Covenant at all. Which is why when I listen to people's reactions, stuff like that, kind of just analyzing, because there's nothing, Delta's 100% right. There's nothing on Magical that isn't more important elsewhere in terms of our attention. There's nothing there that, at least to me, like, for example, they lose their ship and I'm like, you didn't even think about the idea that rebel, like, people would try to take parts of your ship and tear it down. Hell, if I was on Magical, I would try to get the hell out of there because the Covenant are inbound. They were there. They just didn't care enough to glass it because they got taken elsewhere by a signal. But
yeah,
anyway.
I feel like what they're trying to point to is that this is like a main source of fuel for the UNSC or whatever.
Yeah.
But that, but again, the UNSC's. This is what I'm not. They really have not, because they've made so many changes. You can't make any assumptions about the lore of this timeline, which makes it really hard to figure out what's going on. So like they make all these changes, but they expect you to know everything at the same time in a lot of areas, it seems like. Like, you should just know this and know these relationships. And it assumes a lot of knowledge when it's already gone and rewritten the book, which I don't I don't understand, because, like, humanity has, what, like hundreds of worlds, thousands of worlds at the beginning of the war?
Yeah.
So what's the deal with only this being the major source of, this being the proverbial Middle East with the oil? Like, it just doesn't, like, either is the war a big deal or not? Like, have you lost all of your colonies or not? Like, or like what is this? Because I'm not really understanding where.
There's also the fact that Soren is walking around with Spartan armor, and you would assume that a town filled with insurrectionists who hate Spartans would probably take a shot at a guy walking around with Spartan armor. Because again, he's tall.
Yeah.
He has it, like, it's stuff like that. Or she has a bounty on her head, but she's walking around and openly confronting people in the middle of crowds, and she has no coverage or anything. She doesn't shave her head to make herself look different.
Yeah, they don't even try.
Yeah, it's and also, like, then they leave the town. They get chased out by an assassin, again, I know people are making a big deal about the revolver that Soren has. I don't care, because again, that's not a big mindset, because again, UNSC weapons are just kinetic weapons anyway, so I could just assume it's just.
Yeah, they use standard NATO rounds even in lore.
Yeah, so
standard 7.62 NATO, which is okay.
Yeah, so my bigger issue is them going out in the middle of the desert, Soren handcuffing Kawan to the bicycle, or not the bicycle, the bike, and then walking out. I swear I don't think there's another scene with him, unless I'm mistaken. Then he comes back, she hides herself, knocks him out with a weapon she got from insurrectionists that under Venture earlier, and then threatens to shoot him in the head, and I'm like, he didn't threaten to kill you. He just handcuffed you, told you not to leave, and he would go deal with things himself. Which, again, the fact he came back for you and he didn't immediately off you for the bounty, I think is a positive thing. So it lingers on that, and I saw so many people and again, one reaction was like, the fuck are you doing? And I agree, it's a waste of time. There's just forced drama for no reason.
Also, the fact that they were being hunted and chased, and he just leaves her out in the middle of nowhere where they break down, as if they couldn't be followed.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I hope they don't find her while she's tied to this bike while I'm out and about. Like, I don't.
Or they don't find you, who is a plus 6 foot plus man in Spartan gear,
walking in open ground. Yeah. Like, it's just kind of like they didn't try very much. Yeah. There's a lot of places where in the writing and the storytelling, I feel like they're just not trying very hard.
Yeah.
I don't.
But I will say, technically speaking, in terms of the effects and like them trying to bring this world to life, and we'll talk about this more with the action sequence. I think that there is a team of people that are working on costuming, working on special effects, working on like the whole like atmosphere of Halo that are busting their asses on this, and I feel so bad for them because the suits look great.
Yeah.
I mean, like it's not the best sci-fi town I've seen, but it is like a decent set. The base that they that we'll get to later with Halsey and with John Find, I think was a cool base and set. Like there's some good stuff there. I just feel that it's kind of clouded by like the actual story and what the characters are doing. Also, I
feel
think
like
the
they're
actors,
too.
yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
I think the actors are also doing the best they can. Like I know people are gonna
Yeah.
shit on Quan. I know people are gonna shit on Master Chief because what the lines they're given, what they're forced to do. But I think that they're trying their best, and I feel like
I really think.
yeah,
Well, so like, here's my thing. I lost this earlier, and so I want to bring it up because I'll forget it again.
yeah,
I
go
feel
ahead.
like they're not trying when it comes to like the way they set up the environments, and here's why. In the Expanse, you have okay, so you've got like the people of Earth, the people of Mars, and the people of the Belt, each with their own
Yes.
distinct culture. And the culture that they have transcends like ethnic and racial divides that we see nowadays on Earth, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's across. It's now the countries are three, like those three places, and you see
Yeah.
in their accents and their ideologies, etc. In the Halo universe, it's supposed to be kind of similar, where like corporations or groups of people from certain areas, like say China, settled certain areas, right?
Yeah.
So like people from Asia went to a certain place, people from America, etc., people from certain European like Baltic states, and you can see it in people's accents and languages and how they congregate. Kind of like when people immigrate to America, you get like Chinatown, like the Polish area of town, like the Irish area of town, etc., or even entire cities that are like more like one or two ethnicities, right?
Yeah.
Um, they don't really do that in Halo, even though the lore calls for it, and even though like the Expanse does a really good job of that. Either
Yeah.
either you make them, either you make them homogenous based off of their shared experience, or you split them up as the people kind of naturally filter towards like people from their home countries, like in the short term. In the long term, yeah, everybody kind of becomes more like melting potty, which is what happens in the Expanse. Everybody's like
Yeah.
been melted pot into those three factions. In Halo, it's almost as if everybody's been melting potted, but they haven't. Like they have their original like ethnic accents, but it's as
Yes.
if they just started colonizing like yesterday, and that
Yeah.
nobody has like you've got people with Irish accents and Chinese accents and stuff, and it just doesn't really fit because they're like playing both sides, and you that's not how naturally people like flow and move. Like unless
Yeah.
you've colonized in the last 2 minutes, like you're either going to have people kind of coming together with like family members and people like from their own areas, or people are going to melting pot, and you've been there
Yeah.
for a while and people have melting potted. The
So
Halo lore
just
calls for people of specific countries or ethnicities, areas of the globe settling like certain colonies generally,
yeah.
and they
Now,
maintain their cultures separately.
yeah, just kind of, I guess, put in comparison. Maybe I'm being very simplistic with this, so forgive me if I'm wrong. But would this be similar to like the United States is a very different culture than most other countries? But then you go that even further, and it'd be like Boston has the Boston
Yeah.
accent and like stuff like that.
You
Like
go to the
a
South
very
or wherever,
specific,
yeah.
yeah. So like when you go to another planet, you expect them to have their own kind of way they talk, way
Yeah,
to
they
interact
don't
with other
have their
people.
own way.
Yeah.
Everybody's got an accent from their ethnicity. But then if you're going to do that, then everybody should be maintaining their almost their segregation, for lack of a better term. Like the natural way, just that people kind of tend to emigrate initially,
Yeah.
and then they become out. Like they're just not like. It seems like they've been there a while. These are established cities, so why aren't they all kind of like one
Why?
more homogenous? Like
Yeah. Like as
it
much
just
as
doesn't make sense.
as much as I give credit for Magical trying, I feel like they could do more to make it separate it a bit more in terms of trying to really make this an insurrectionist like home and stuff like that, because it does look like a standard desert planet that you would see off Star Wars. Like I'm being honest, like I think of Star Wars Rogue One where they landed on top of that
Yeah.
like city that's on in that area, and I'm like that place looks a little similar to this. But this one's a little sandier and a little bit more brown. But like the basic idea follows. I will say though, an issue that I have in this show is constantly, and we'll kind of move over to Halsey and Chief. Though there is another plot that I actually thought was interesting, at least more positive than negative. But with Halsey and Chief, there's so many little like plot things. I'm like, come on, what are you doing? Halsey and Chief go to Aridness, which is where Chief is from, and they go down to a place and they decide, you know what, let's dig holes to find whatever Chief is looking for, rather than have some sort of sensor to pick up a box underneath the ground. It's stupid stuff like that a civilized like a civilization 500 years ahead of us with the most advanced technology at their disposal can't think of stuff like that. It's dumb.
And I think like the one part I remember thinking this watching the Master Chief like dig up that box.
Yes.
Why doesn't he just like? It would have been a cool scene to just have him like feel it out, like reach into the earth and just pick it out with like one hand, like not even have to dig it out. You know what I mean? Just like grab onto it, and pull it right out of the ground. Like that's something a Spartan would do.
So another thing a Spartan would do is, and this is something that I really hate this show about, because people are going to make supercuts of it. I completely understand why people are frustrated, because it frustrates me every time I see it, where you see Chief put his helmet on, he'll go somewhere 15 seconds later in the show, and he'll take it off. Like, they do that in multiple situations where Chief would honestly be better suited in that environment, whether it's after a large battle, why would you immediately take off your helmet? Otherwise, the Jackal's going to be like, oh. Like, Kat got taken out with her helmet on because of no shields. Do you think that you would be safer after a battle? Like, you think a battle's wrapped up, but there could be an enemy somewhere that just take a headshot at you? Or, like, I don't know. It feels like they're forcing the character to take the helmet off, not because of the situation at hand. Like, if two Spartans are having a conversation that could lead them into having issues, keep the helmet on so that way no one else in close proximity can listen to you, and you can just go off local, like, secure channels back and forth to each other. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't, and I don't know. I just don't like what they're doing with the Spartan plot. Like, I'm interested, but I wish they would have. Spartans have much more character and depth in like mainline lore, and it's not some emotional palette or whatever. Like they grapple with this with the realities of their existence constantly.
Yeah,
and it's talked about a lot in the books. Even at the beginning of, what is it, Halo 4?
Yeah.
I think it is when that opening scene when they're interviewing Halsey, and the one guy is, do you think the Master Chief succeeded because he was at his core broken? And like they cut to like a Spartan just like sitting there kind of like staring at the ground, like just like almost traumatized. Like they're much more, I don't know, they're much more than just robots.
Yeah. No, that's kind of what they've tried to do ever since 4. And I like 4's story. I do. Again, there's issues, I think, that gets thrown out the window because of 5, that it doesn't get addressed properly. But I feel like this show can be more. And I'll be honest, like the flashback that Chief had going through his past, I liked. I actually liked that sequence because it's him as a child going through stuff. I'm like, that's interesting. I also, and again, maybe you'll find this wrong, but I do like the idea that Keyes is the Mendes of this universe, where that's why he would have that impact, is he's the one who trained the Spartans. He's the one who went through and kind of broke them. So at least that's what it's hinting at, which I find fascinating, because then it's like, oh, he's just a captain, and then secretly he's working with Oni to, to work up these Spartans. That's how Halsey and them kind of, got together, had their child, and that's why she kind of saw her as like a black sheep and kind of saw her children as the Spartans. This is an issue though with that logic, because then she goes and saves Miranda.
I can't wait for season 2 when we get Captain Mendes of the Pillar of Autumn. That's gonna be like, I don't know. It's
If you're combining characters, it's not like Mendes was in the games. I like that aspect of, okay, Keyes is a character that is instrumental for the first Halo game and Reach. Him showing up in Reach it was like huge. But beside that, and I know he's part of the books and stuff like that, but it's like, how do we incorporate that character besides that being a captain. Let's incorporate him into Oni, incorporate him into the UNSC into like split lives. I like that. I thought that was a cool addition.
I know I covered this a couple shows ago, but I don't like how intertwined all the different departments and people of stature are. That's not how any bureaucracy works.
No,
and that's really what's hurting the suspension of disbelief for me. This seems like a Game of Thrones type thing more, like, everybody knows of each other and blah, blah, blah. But the reality is, the UNSC is a huge organization. Not everybody knows each other. Like, the board of generals and admirals, like, in lore is huge. Like, dozens and dozens of people. Like, there's no reason that Halsey and all these people are all in the same room. It drives me insane.
Why is someone trying to cut Oni's funding or like Halsey's funding right when she found something? Yeah, it's like it feels like this would be better suited if Halsey didn't find anything. Then you can make that honest to God, like, Halsey, we did this for you, we did this, we let you do your experimental programs on the AI and Cortana. But listen, you literally cost us so much and you haven't found shit. We're putting you on the back burner. That would make more sense than, hey, you just found this super relic that no one else has found in like the entirety of human history, from what it seems like. And we're cutting your funding as you find that.
Also, the whole cutting your funding thing, there's a really cool scene from the books, and I could be slightly wrong on the details, it's been a while. But when the Master Chief and Cortana are paired together, that's when they're like criticizing Halsey. So they put Master Chief through a test where they use live rounds on him and like airstrike him and stuff. Yeah. And like he's getting shot at by Marines and everything. And he ends up like taking out the planes from the ground and like doing this crazy stuff. Yeah. And that's what like proves him like to some of the military skeptics. But also that was like a whole scene like where he's fighting UNSC people like in a trial basically.
Yeah, and even then like Oni, like for example, the Oni, and again this is from Ghost of Onyx. Oni had a device that could send immediate communications between planets. I believe there was one between Reach and Earth. And there was one between Onyx and Reach that was set up because Onyx had a black site on it. Again, that device was worth an entire UNSC fleet, like tons of ships, tons of material, all this stuff. All instead they made this communication device. So if you think that they haven't pushed Oni to have these certain things and devices, stuff like that. It's like they obviously have the resources. You cutting their funding now is just laughable. Truly, because especially like if you know a lot of this material, you know how powerful Oni can be, even with the UNSC trying to meddle in their affairs. Not saying that Oni is all knowing and all seeing, but they have the capabilities and they've been given the funding and given the stuff in the books and material and in the games to do what they want. And again, the Spartans are the result of that. Like the Spartans themselves are so costly that they made the Spartan 3s to try to cut down costs and try to figure out a way through this. So again, this is why it's like to a person watching this, you may be like, oh, that's not, I mean, this is just forced drama. But if you know the material, you know how stupid that is for how much money they've already given Oni.
And it's, I don't know, the bureaucracy of it. Like, Oni doesn't have funding issues. Yeah. Like, Oni basically pulls the strings on where the funding goes. Like, yes. Not entirely, but yeah. Everybody, Oni has dirt on everybody. Everybody kind of dislikes and distrusts Oni, but they need them. Yeah. It's like the devil you know. Like we need them. We don't like them. Everybody hates them, but we need them. That's what it is.
I feel like, again, by the way, so Halsey and Chief do eventually find a second artifact, and that brings a bunch of people, the remaining Silver team that were off-planet to there. That brings Miranda, I believe a UNSC frigate that is overhead, but it's weird because that frigate looks like actually, no, is it a destroyer that is there? Actually, I'm thinking about my head now going through the ships. I think it's a UNSC destroyer.
I think that's a destroyer. It's a smaller one. It looks very similar to the ones that come out of the UNSC when the UNSC drops out of subspace. Yeah, like those escort frigates. That's what it looks like. It's very similar looking.
But one thing I did like, And even though I do not like the setup of the one Spartan cutting the thing out by herself, and the other was it Kai?
Yeah.
Yeah, Kai cutting it out by herself, I think is dumb. But I did like Kai's and Silver Team's interaction with Miranda, going over Covenant physiology, technology, all this stuff. I thought was awesome. That was my favorite part of the episode of episode 4. Actually, was like
at the same time.
Yeah,
like it's kind of dumb.
Yes.
Why don't they already know all this? They've been fighting him for presumably like 25 years. What? So the Spartans know all this stuff, but like never bothered to share it. Nobody bothered to ask them. Like, come on. They get debriefed after every mission.
I am under the mindset, and this is just me. I'm under the mindset this show is both, like, again, okay, how do I put this? I am under the mindset that this show is so stupid that it doesn't realize how much time has passed, because it says that it's a recent threat, and we've been battling this threat for years. So I have no idea, but I do find it fascinating, that scene of them doing it in isolation, right? But once you compound it with the years of history that the Covenant have been attacking humanity, how long Spartans have been fighting against the Covenant, yes, it is stupid. It is incredibly stupid, but I did like the scene because I liked Spartans interacting with someone who was curious about all the Covenant stuff. Yeah,
for sure. And also, does it feel like there's only 4 Spartans in this lore? I don't.
Yeah, it does. It does. I don't
know if there's any other Spartans anymore. I don't know. Are there another 30 Spartans running around in their own squads or not? I don't know. I have no idea.
And it's not like Halsey only cares about Chief. She cares about all the Spartans. The fact she hasn't even mentioned other ones or hasn't mentioned where they are at all, I find interesting. Or the plot is just like, we can only handle 4 right now because we're barely even giving it characters to the other 3. So sorry, we can't. We don't have time, which is disappointing.
And this is a nitpick, but
yeah.
So they've got customized armor, right?
Yes.
Like they all got their own armor.
Yep.
So like if we run into other Spartans, are they gonna have customized armor? Are they just all gonna have Mark IVs? Like at one point, almost all the Spartans wore the same armor. It wasn't until the very end of the war, when the program was more fleshed out, that everybody started customizing for their specialty.
Yeah, those actually, and the customizations were more prone in Spartan 3s because they were cheaper. And they were given more flexibility to do that stuff. And again, if for reference, that's why in like Halo Wars, you have like a bunch of Spartans looking very similar to each other. Whereas, and even in the books, you have Spartans all looking the same. And then in like Halo 2, they made a small adjustment to the helmet. But then also in the same time frame, you have Ghosts of Onyx that have like different Spartans in their customized gear because they were allowed more flexibility at that point, like Delta said. So yeah, you're right. It is weird. It is very.
And they even cover the different customization in the books, I mean, they started designing armor while consulting with individual Spartans on how they wanted it to work.
Yeah. Now I will say this, and because I get it. First off, if you're watching this, it might be difficult to differentiate yourself between different Spartans if they all look very similar. But then and to be fair, you could also make an excuse like. The Spartan themselves, maybe the outer layer is slightly different and up to the person's like customization, but the inner layer is always the same. So
I'm more pointing to the helmets, I think, more than anything.
Especially because of the fact, and especially you can make the determination that if a Spartan is unique in a certain type of technique, in terms of killing, in terms of support, stuff like that, their armor can adjust to what they're prone at, like a sniper, or better hand-to-hand combat, or better at fisticuffs, or whatever case, or running, whatever that they are slightly better at, that they can adjust the suit to be better equipped for it. So I'm fine with the suits looking different. You mentioned Game of Thrones. I forgot to mention. Yeah, this also has the season 1 trope that most shows have, like The Witcher, like Game of Thrones, although in Game of Thrones slowly like moved away from this. Having nudity for no purpose. We see Venture's ass, and we also see Kai's posterior, because, hey, we need to make sure that we get that, we hook people on season 1 with nudity, even though we're not going to show you anything other than the back of them.
I don't like
Yeah.
nudity for nudity's sake, and
Yeah, but it
I
is.
swear I'm gonna go on a tangent because if Lord of the Rings has intimate scenes just to have intimate scenes like they're saying it's
Yep.
going to in Amazon, I will stop watching. Like there's just certain things that don't need it. Now, Halo has never been super open about that, but it does occur in the books, so it's not totally out of place.
Yeah, but look, I'll be honest. Game of Thrones, in context, makes sense. You have literally people that are in brothels, people that are known to be, like, getting whores to, like, constantly follow them around. Nudity makes sense in Game of Thrones.
You have to earn
nudity,
it. You really have to earn it.
Yeah, nudity doesn't make sense in, like... Or, like, The Witcher. Witcher makes sense because of some of the situations that you have in medieval culture. That's fine. Again, it kind of fits that. Here, we've just watched them in a bathroom. And it's not like Starship Troopers, where you're doing the scene, but it is in a sense of, like, camaraderie with other people. So, of course, you're going to have locker room talk. So, even then, that makes sense. And here... Cool. Or we're seeing a person take a chip out of them, which was obviously not well and properly installed in them. If you could easily pull it out, so
yeah,
and then villain monologue in a in a giant pool, which is like, can we just have him like one thing like
it would make more sense if he was torturing somebody. Like
like I'm thinking of Arcane, where you had the older like. Woman that's like the leader of a country take off her like robe in front of the counselor. She's doing that not for fan service. She's doing that to prove a point that she is the most powerful person, and she's not flinching in the slightest, but you will flinch at her and you will bow to her. So she's always controlling, always like manipulating people, which works. So in that case, nudity's fine. In this case, there's no purpose. Not like Venture is doing a power play and forcing like trying to manipulate others. It's not really the case, but all right.
Well,
so
do you remember his name? Because I don't remember his name, and I've not put any brain power into remembering.
I have a cheat sheet in front of me, so that's why.
Oh, okay.
So let me go over a couple things. I do like Halsey and Cortana. I think both of them are still good. I have nitpicks of like John getting a flashback and now being untrustworthy, like thinking Halsey is a threat and actually attacking Halsey. Like, the fuck is that? He literally dives at Halsey and then Cortana shuts him down. I'm like, really? We're doing that? That's after he touches the artifact again. Which, by the way, the artifact sends a powerful enough pulse that it knocks out a like steel crane above it, but all the people around it in close proximity, totally fine. Absolutely totally fine.
Yeah, I was kind of at least expecting like their ears and noses to be bleeding or something.
Yeah, they should be dead. Like if a concussive force is strong enough to knock out a steel pillar above it, that force would hit the people below. Those people would literally be pasted.
Yeah, I don't. And then he takes his helmet off again, which is...
Yep. Guys, when you take off her helmet, take it on, take it off, take it on,
We've already established he doesn't need his helmet off to interact with these objects. He doesn't need to take it off.
And hell, if you... I know because someone immediately is going to be like, well, Greyshot, if they talk over comms, couldn't their chat be recorded? I'm like, okay. But if you're having two people interact and the Spartans are showing emotions, that's going to give people off, so you could literally talk over, like... this, like
your helmets.
Yeah. It's not like Master Chief talks in his helmet like in Halo 3 and he has to take it off to talk to Johnson and the Arbiter once he first meet them. It's like, no, that's dumb. You're in a combat zone and you have no idea what can happen. And anyway,
the whole thing is, and Spartans have private encrypted channels. Like the thing is, the Spartans are supposed to be given a lot of their own leeway in lore compared to this show. They get their own encrypted channels. They get their own barracks that aren't really observed after a while. Like they don't have their emotions suppressed in lore. I mean, the reason Spartans are sterile in lore is just because of the augmentations they went through during puberty.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with a constant like pill or anything. It was literally the trauma and like the surgeries and stuff that did it. I mean, I don't know. I don't like it.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be actually like pretty calm too. Like horrible stuff happens to them and they still manage to actually like empathize with people. Like you see the Master Chief get saddened by deaths of people around him and you in the books especially you see lots of Spartans like disgusted by death and stuff like that. And then, but they move
So
on because they're stronger than it, not because they're on some meds.
yeah. Now here's the thing, and we've been actually talking about it so long. I do want to bring up one last thing before we get to the action sequence in episode 5, which again, now I'm realizing we're not going to get probably another major action sequence until episode 9, and I'm so disappointed with that. But I do want to point out that I am enjoying Vanek, because Kai and Vanek had a conversation that had like a red versus blue almost reference. It's like you changed a couple words, but it sounds like a red versus blue joke, like ever wonder why we're here sort of mentality of thinking. And Vanek's response to it is just hilarious. But also we get a sequence where when Chief does get that flashback, we do see the switcheroo. Which again, if you don't know, there were cloned children made of the Spartans. That way they could be replaced. So if that is the case, that would be interesting to see. And I'm not saying that would be an interesting conversation. I hate how this story's going so far, but at the very least, that could be an interesting. I'm glad they at least kept that. And because I was worried that they would do something stupid, but and I know they already showed up Flash cloning, but still, I was just like, they're gonna do something else, aren't they? Glad they at least kept that. So we'll see. We'll see where that goes. But here, Delta, do you want to go over the action sequence of episode 5, which is the last 10 minutes?
I enjoyed it, but there was one thing that I could not get over, and I don't know why they didn't bother to just fix it. It wouldn't have been hard.
I have a couple, but let's see what your issue was.
The sniper rifle sound.
A lot of the weapons
sounds like a handgun.
Yes.
Just put the sniper sound from the games in the show. Just do it. It's not hard. Well, you've already got it pre-recorded.
I thought the BR sound that Chief was firing at the spirit that was flying away, it sounded like an assault rifle. I double-checked the audio. The closest I could find, it sounded like the Halo 2 Anniversary sound, or maybe even the Saw. But, like, it was like, wait, why does the BR sound like it's fully automatic? It was very weird. Not saying you can't fire consistently with the BR, but the BR typically is a 3-shot burst.
Yeah. My other issue, I think, we live in a day and age now where we have 3D printers, CNC machines. They could literally design a chassis to fit around a modern gun if they wanted to, and shoot blanks out of it. All you need is a firearms expert and an engineer with a CAD. They could print a few one-offs for the scenes that look perfect to the in-lore stuff and actually fire real bullets out of them. People make custom chassis for guns all the time.
I get why, especially on set, you don't want to fire real rounds. I get that.
No, I know, but then you use a gas blowback airsoft gun. I will say it's even easier to design for.
I will say, I will give credit to the practical explosions that they did have. Obviously, they had explosions go off near people, so I'll give credit there, because it looked great. When Key's walking, and then, the guy behind him just blows up, I'm like, that was good. The Banshee bombing that occurred, the effect of the destroyer being shot at by Banshees and hit by long-range shots from orbit, that was cool. And then it crashing, though I feel like there would have been more dust and debris hitting the whole field if a fucking destroyer crashes down next to you. The Spartans running next to the Warthog, awesome. The Jackals and Grunts showing up, and the Grunts kind of having a couple little moments, but still being treated like the fodder they are. Jackals were badass. And I believe the sword is something that, oh god,
it has been in the games once.
Yeah, so that was cool. I like the Jackals showing their toe-to-toe with, at the very least, Marines, which again, really, really cool. And again, the Spartans fighting, Chief going toe-to-toe with an elite and beating him to death. I'm gonna, it's oh man, you must really like that sequence. Here's the problem. Immediately I watched it again, and I was like, what are issues I could find with this sequence? Because one, John ordering, I realized, and I went back for this, John ordering Kai that she's distracted, but just ignoring it himself. Really? You can't really yell at someone for having emotion when you're doing it. So I felt like John's smarter than that and would figure out a better way to say it. Then we also have the Covenant ship coming through the clouds, and the clouds just kind of not even moving. I know they're kind of anti-gravity, but I feel like if a thing is coming through it, it looked bad. I would say just don't have it through the clouds, or maybe not have it the way you did, because to me it didn't look that great. The Warthog having, even though the Needler shot was amazing, the Warthog guy driver being pushed out by the Grunt, and it was still going. Then the Grunt gets in it, and then Chief shoots the Grunts, and it's still going. I'm like, who's holding the gas pedal when that's going on? Because
you know what? It's on what's that? Cruise control.
Yeah, it's on cruise control. Then you have Halsey saving Miranda, which I was like, I don't feel like she would save Miranda. I feel like she would order someone to save Miranda. She wouldn't do it herself. She would try to save the Spartans. Like that, like her ordering the Spartans be saved or covered, I feel like would be more of her priority. Then you had Chief jumping on the Banshee, which I think was great until I realized he's shooting at it, and there's like, you can see it being shot, but there's no bullet holes or anything. You can't even see like bullets come out of it. And I'm like, okay, even if I recall in the games, if a bullet hits an object, there is a hole in it. So it's like, all right. Then you had the brute coming from the spirit, but where the brute came out of, it's like, was the brute riding on top of it? Because the parts were like still like not moving. So essentially a spirit works because the loading bays unlock on the side and troops jump out. And then you also have like a position where he went into it, where the brute, can like go in and out of, or troops can go in and out of, that's fine. The problem with that one is if you look at where the brute jumps out, it makes no sense because the whole thing would have opened up and it doesn't open. So that's a consistency issue.
I think it would have been better if they used a Phantom for that then.
Yeah. I think it as well, but they want to be like, hey guys, look, we have fan service. Like, if you're gonna have fan service, make it make fucking sense. Or like the elite punching Kai. Like literally this elite comes over and starts punching Kai. I'm like, don't you have like a spare blade, like a knife or something? Why are you punching a Spartan to death? Like, because I looked again, the elite had no gun, no weapon at all. I'm like, wouldn't the elite just come over and hit her with like a plasma rifle or something?
Yeah. Also, what was all that fire she was taking when their shields were down?
Yeah,
she took like 5 mags full of plasma. If there were mags, just constant fire while her shields are down, just not.
Yeah, there would not be any shields. You would literally see plasma hit her armor, and I thought I was expecting that, but then it kept going. I'm like, she obviously wouldn't have shields at this point. So, then we have also like, oh boy. So you have the prisoner, aka oh god, I already forgot her name, Mackie, coming down from a ship. She like, make me look good, like beating her up and then sending her down. She had a little bit of blood on her, but I'm like, her face looks fine. Her like clothing looks fine. She doesn't look like a refugee. She looks like someone who's like properly in a movie. Like, I'm being honest. Like, if I wake up in the morning, I look terrible. It actually takes effort for me to look good. And you can go and watch me when I couldn't like take a shower for 7 days because the water was off and I was streaming. I looked terrible during that. Now imagine I'm a person inside of a Covenant ship for days on end. Nope, very little bit of water, I would assume. Not really much in terms of amenities, especially if in that situation. Then you somehow escape through a drop pod. And what? You look fine, you look pristine and look totally normal. I'm like, bullshit. Like, there's something up with her. That's also, it's like,
you got a lot of makeup on for a Covenant prisoner or for a Covenant person.
Oh, okay. That's good to know. But it's stupid stuff like that where it's like someone literally was like, hey guys, shouldn't the prisoner look like a prisoner and not look like someone who just got off makeup? Like, again, the final shot, Chief covered in blood is fine, but again, he takes off his fucking helmet immediately, and I'm like, there's a war zone still happening. That Covenant, like, also, I'm like, why doesn't the Covenant, like, glass everything? Like, they could, after they take the artifact, just glass everyone there, right? Just kill everyone, and then just try to get her somewhere else. Like, literally just have her go on board and go with them.
Also, if
Like,
this is such a high value asset leading to some huge like weapon
Yeah.
the Covenant really, really want, why is there only one frigate? Like, you would send a fleet at least, I would think.
Yeah. And
there should be a way bigger operation.
Yeah, the Covenant ship can fire some plasma torpedoes and bomb the whole area. And it's not like, man, we should have the Blessed One get in the hands of the Spartans. It's like, oh, we should probably kill the Spartans down there that have been causing us hell. And I feel like anytime I'm sorry, or the Covenant would refer them as demons, apologies. They would kill the demons immediately and then be like, all right, got it, we're all good. Unless they're like really don't want the the only thing I can think of is they don't want to hurt the other Blessed One. But do they know that John, that Spartan, is the Blessed One? Oh wait, they do because they do,
yeah.
But do they know it's specifically that Spartan, other than other Spartans?
Probably. I don't know. Everybody knew, like in lore, everybody knows who the Master Chief is.
Yeah, but like the Covenant obviously don't.
Based on how
they interact. How they've interacted with humans, I'm like, they should be better at this.
Yeah, but it's weird.
I'm sorry.
The whole thing is janky.
Yeah, I'm like, it would be better like, oh, there's the other one. Just kill him. Get rid of it. You know, we can only have one Blessed One. But I don't know. Overall, there was a good action sequence that I will say, but again, you have to go through an hour and 40 minutes of... an hour 40. I would say about an hour and 30 minutes worth of other stuff to get to 10 minutes of awesomeness. So if I have to give episodes 4 and 5 a rating, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10. There's some decent stuff, but I don't think it's really good television. I think there's too much in terms of just plot conveniences and tropes that just keep this down for me too much.
Yeah, there's a lot of plot armor and plot, like, I forget what the term is, but, like, forcing the plot along.
Yep. So, I don't know. And again, by the way, I'm not using footage to show any of this in case you're wondering why. Apparently, anytime there's negative reviews, if Viacom can, or I guess Paramount, they're going to remove your videos, which I'm not risking. I'm sorry. If I have a feeling I might do a full recap review on this and just pick apart this show, but if I do, I'm just going to use images. I'm not going to risk showing footage of this show.
I don't know. I know,
yeah.
I wanted to like the action sequence. I just, it's okay.
No, I agree. It's like, the action sequence, I think, for a TV show is I will say it's very good. It's very well shot in some instances. It's, especially with, like, Master Chief riding on the Warthog, it's like there's some really good shots there. But then, again, there's a couple nitpicks I can have during the best scene that I can think of. And even during that, so you have all this other shit that, like, pulls you out of it, and it just makes you uncaring toward the magical plot.
I'll be honest, though. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I kind of am interested in Halsey. I'm kind of interested in Cortana. But that's because I know those characters, and I like how they're being represented here, but it's still not perfect. There's no perfect character or issue. If anything, like, the stuff that they're trying themselves that isn't part of the Halo lore is the worst part of this show because it's just boring. And I'm glad that other people who have no experience in watching this show, from what I can see, are also having that exact same reaction to it. Go ahead, Delta. Sorry.
No, I just, that sniper rifle thing pulled me out of that combat scene immediately. When I heard it sound like a handgun, I was like, why does that sniper rifle sound like a handgun? And why does it look like it's not even shooting anything? It really pulled me out. And plenty of TV shows lots and lots and lots of police shows use airsoft guns. You can get airsoft guns. They're cheap. They're like less than a couple, more. They're less than $500 for good ones.
You can insert a sound effect. Yeah.
Yeah, but they shoot gas, so they have recoil. The bolt actually recoils. You can even get ones that eject fake bullets, and produce some smoke. Like it is a thing,
Yeah. That doesn't. You're 100% right in the terms of they could make their own sound effect that makes it sound a lot more powerful than a pistol shot.
Yeah,
and they could replicate it themselves. Like, for example, I remember watching documentaries on Battlefield before 2042, like Bad Company 2, Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, where they went and they actually got sound effects from, again, gun ranges, stuff like that, to make it as realistic as possible. I remember Arma 3 going to like military sites and getting like certain sound effects that to replicate. So you can do that stuff. You absolutely can. I just feel like this show is taking the easy way, which sucks because I want this show to be good. I do not want to be negative about this show. I really don't. And I'm being honest when I say it's not the actors, it's not the people busting their ass behind the scenes to make this technically look as good as they can. It's the people writing it, it's people directing it, it's people producing it, it's people who don't give a fucking shit about like continuity or term or like just any sort of like scene to scene to scene why you should care. Like whoever said people are really going to care about magical, why? What is the tension there? Because
give me a
right
reason.
now, all the plot, every plot convenience that you're saying right now doesn't lend itself to the situation at hand. The biggest threat to magical isn't the insurrectionists who are taking control of it. It's the Covenant who should be glassing that world probably very soon. I would be very surprised if magical lives into the end of the season. I would be very surprised if that planet is not glassed.
Yeah. Why would you... Also, that brings up a good point. Who in their right mind would head back to magical after the Covenant were seen there?
Yes!
Who?
Yes!
Who goes back there other than the military?
Who takes apart... Yeah. That ship that got, like, taken apart, every single person who had money should have bought on that ship and got the fuck out. The only instance I can think of where the Covenant didn't return was, like, Arcadia in Halo Wars. But Arcadia was so destroyed by the Covenant attack that literally everyone left. There was a very, very small group of humans that had, like, a risky business of farming. And even they were glassed in, like, a decade and a half later. So I don't... Yeah. Like, most people should gain the fuck out if they were smart, but I don't.
It took the UNSC 5 years to get Harvest back or whatever?
Took the UNSC 5 years to get Harvest back, but the other outer colonies were glassed and burned and slaughtered, so.
Yeah.
Hey, propaganda, but look, Again, I probably won't have you subject through another episode next week. I'll probably give it a couple more episodes or just do a season wrap-up, Delta. So,
yeah.
We can talk about everything.
I mean, I'll still watch them. As long as I still... Right now, the only character I care about is Kai. Yeah. And I kind of feel bad for Cortana with the way she's being treated, so I care about her a little bit. That's about it.
Like, I'll be honest, like, as soon as I finish up, because I'm right now about to start watching Yellowstone, right? And that's being helmed by a guy who made Hell or High Water, Wind River, like all these amazing movies, and the show apparently gets better after season 1. But other than that show, there is no other reason for me to have Paramount Plus. As soon as it wraps, like I will hopefully end my Paramount Plus subscription right as this show ends, and I paid, I think in total $5 for 3 months of it because they're like $2 or no.
Let me throw something into Paramount Plus. I want to throw some major shade, and then I'm going to give you a show that you should definitely watch when there's no kids around.
Okay. Star
Trek Picard is absolutely awful.
Yes.
I hate it, and I'm not even a Trek fan.
I'm not really watching it. I
don't think I can make it to the next episode. It released earlier this week, and I haven't watched it yet. And I've been bored with TV, so I started watching The Umbrella Academy on Netflix.
Oh yeah, that's good. That's great.
It's bizarre, but I like it.
Oh, Doom Patrol is also really good.
I watched part of that, but I never continued watching that. But that's just like based on. Isn't Doom Patrol based on like out of the Titans universe or something?
Yeah. It's in the same sort of sphere or kind of level in terms of like connectivity, but. I say that because it's also crazy, and I really like Brendan Fraser as the robot in the show. So I watched a few episodes. I just got distracted. My plan is to go back, but there's other great TV shows you could be watching, like The Expanse. Like The Expanse is literally the baseline of amazing. Battlestar Galactica you could watch.
Battlestar Galactica is amazing. I actually the one good show on Paramount Plus. I will give him this. Mayor of Kingstown. I really enjoyed.
Oh yeah, that's great. Yeah, But I think that Mayor of East... Wait, hold on. I want to make sure.
Mayor of Kingstown.
Oh, Kingstown. Sorry, Mayor of Easttown, I think, was also by the guy, Taylor Sheridan.
Okay.
Sorry.
But yeah, Mayor of Kingstown with Jeremy Renner. It's worth a watch. No kids around, obviously. Lots of swearing, lots of nudity, but it follows like the prison system in the local town, and Jeremy Renner is like the fixer between the prisons and the police and the gangs. It's really interesting.
Oh, okay.
But,
so, apologies, because I thought sorry, I've heard of the Mayor of Easttown. So, what's it called again? The Mayor of Kingstown?
Mayor of Kingstown.
Why does that, that also sounds familiar. I think it
got really good reviews.
It was created by Taylor Sheridan. Taylor Sheridan, by the way, he also worked on Sons of Anarchy. But, again, I know him more from writing Sicario, Hell or High Water, Wind River, Those Who Wish Me Dead, and then he's pretty much basically covering Mayor of Kingstown and Yellowstone. So the guy is great. That's probably the one thing Paramount has on their side, other than other properties they already had, like SpongeBob or South Park, or these other big franchises that keep going on. This guy seems to be producing new stuff for them that's actually good. So that isn't Star Trek related or any of that stuff. But
if you're looking,
yeah.
Sorry, I would say if you spent money on Paramount Plus and you're disappointed with Halo, it may be worth looking into Mayor of Kingstown. Yeah, it got like an 8.3 on IMDb, and it's got an 89% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. The critics hate it for some reason, so it's good.
I wouldn't say that.
When the audience loves it and the critics hate it, it's good.
Well, my thing about, I guess that was the critics apparently hated the first season of Yellowstone, and to be fair, I had family members say, look, the first couple episodes of Yellowstone are a bit rough. Once you get to the second half of season 1 and the rest of it, it's great. So we might just have a bit of an issue with that first thing, and the reason I say that as well is a lot of critics only watch the first episode. So if the first episode of a series isn't great, they'll stop, which probably explains why if you go to Halo on Rotten Tomatoes, it has a positive overall critic score, but then the user ratings are constantly going down because people are just getting more and more reviews and more up-to-date stuff, and they're like, guys, it's not getting better. It's not. If you're a critic, you need to watch the whole show rather than one part of the whole season. So I don't know. You
know what? I'm reading the critics on that. I'm sorry, that Mayor of Kingstown again.
Yeah.
They all hate it because it's too dark and too dreary. So that's why they hate it.
Well, apparently people didn't like the Batman because of that. So it's like, okay, come on, get your acts together. But anyway, the Northman also came out. And that's supposed to be dark and depressing, but whatever. People enjoying it. Anyway. Thank you guys again for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. We'll probably have another Halo review out, like I said, covering either another batch of episodes or just the final season, because I don't want to keep putting these guys through it, like I said. But anyway, this has been Greyshot, and I'll see all you guys next time. Hello everyone, before you all go, you can check out more content above, you can subscribe, and you can hear as I talk about some amazing people who support me on Patreon, which include Folkvard, Aphyria, Joey G240, Milam, Ace, ShinobiWarrior, Pyroshark, ShinobiToolx, Epic Pleb. Thank you all for your incredible support. You literally help this channel keep on growing, so thank you. If you want to support the channel, again, check out some of the stuff I mentioned. Otherwise, I'll see all of you next time.